Pam Bondi left her apartment before sunrise, sliding into the back seat of the government SUV with the calm of a soldier who has rehearsed every step of a dangerous mission. On the seat beside her lay a single leather portfolio, stamped with the state seal. But inside were only two items: a neat stack of handwritten notes and a memory drive the size of a fingernail. She closed her eyes during the 30-minute ride to downtown Miami, not to rest, but to replay the coming battle, frame by frame, until every insult, every objection, and every counter-move ran smoother than muscle memory. When the driver eased to the curb outside the federal courthouse, the morning sun had just cleared the skyline. Its glare bounced off news van windshields, firing little shards of light across the marble steps. Reporters were already lined up, microphones lifted like drawn swords. They sensed blood in the water, even if they did not yet know whose. Bondi stepped out, a navy suit hugging her shoulders, her blonde hair twisted into a tight, no-nonsense knot. Flashbulbs popped. She heard someone call her name, Emily Harper from Channel 7. But she kept walking, stilettos ticking like a metronome on stone. She did not slow when a camera lens was shoved inches from her face. She did not answer shouted questions about the rematch. Only the barely visible pinch at the corners of her jaw betrayed that she remembered precisely how Judge Edward Chen had mocked her in this same courtroom the year before. Inside the lobby, the air smelled of metal detectors and burnt coffee. As she emptied her pockets for security, a trembling clerk whispered to a colleague, "That's Bondi. She's actually back." The words floated after her like echoes in a cathedral. Courtroom 4. B looked more like a movie set than a hall of justice. Extra folding chairs clogged the aisles. Journalists perched on window ledges, laptops balanced on knees. The ceiling fans whirred at full blast, yet the room felt close, humid with anticipation. At the prosecution table, Ben Crawford lounged, jacket off, tie loosened, the picture of relaxed superiority. His assistant caught Bondi's eye and smirked. She unpacked slow and silent, laying yellow pads, highlighters, and one slim tablet in surgical rows. She could feel hundreds of eyes measuring her heartbeat, waiting for a tremor. They found none. 9 o'clock on the dot, the side door swung wide and Judge Chen entered like a thunderhead rolling inland. His black robe billowed, his chin lifted. He did not glance at the audience. He never did. The bailiff cried, "All rise," and every body shot upward except Chen's. He settled behind the bench, adjusted his glasses with 2 fingers, and snapped the gavel so hard the sound stung eardrums. "This court is now in session." His gaze laser-locked on Bondi. "Ms. Bondi," he drawled, stretching her name as though tasting something bitter. "I confess I'm surprised to see you return." A ripple of laughter flitted across the press row. Crawford leaned back, hands laced behind his head. Bondi stood. "Good morning, Your Honor." Her tone was polite but flat, a sheet of tempered glass. Chen cut her off after her second sentence, calling her citation nostalgia for outdated jurisprudence. Gasps, typing, more laughter. She neither flushed nor fumbled. She turned a page and continued, letting the judge's barb hang in the air like cheap perfume. Each time he interrupted, she paused exactly 1 heartbeat, wrote a tiny note on her pad, documenting, not reacting, and resumed. She was not arguing law yet. She was building a public record of bias. At 10:17 a.m., the courtroom doors opened and a woman in a gray suit slipped into the back row. She carried no notebook, only a thin badge clipped low on her belt. Department of Justice, Investigations Division. She sat, hands folded, eyes fixed on the bench, as still as a statue. Bondi felt the shift without turning. Her plan's first domino had fallen into place. Chen's jabs grew sharper. "Miss Bondi, this court is uninterested in press conference theatrics." He sneered when she referenced precedent. Crawford chuckled openly now. Emily Harper typed so fast her keys clacked like hail on tin. Yet something else brewed beneath the mockery. Impatience, almost desperation, in the judge's voice. He expected Bondi to crack, to protest, to hand him contempt on a silver platter. She refused, and her refusal turned his own words into knives pointing back at him. By 11 a.m., her list of silent notations had stretched 2 pages. She had all she needed. 7 unprovoked interruptions, 5 denigrating comments, 3 unexplained evidentiary rulings, all in less than 2 hours. She closed her yellow pad, lifted her tablet, and waited for Chen's next swing. It came when he leaned forward, voice dripping condescension. Counsel might advise her client to consider a plea before greater embarrassment ensues. Heads pivoted. Even Crawford blinked. Bondi set the tablet face down and reached into her bag for a thicker manila folder, one embossed with the dark blue DOJ seal. She placed it dead center on the defense table and never said a word. The hook was baited. From the gallery, Emily Harper exhaled, sensing a pulse beneath the hush. The gray-suited observer shifted, interest sharpening. A whisper rustled along the benches. "What's in the folder?" Chen noticed it too. Bondi saw the curiosity flicker in his eyes before he smothered it with disdain. He banged the gavel. "Recess until 1:15. Use the time wisely." Then, cloak swirling, he vanished through his private door, unaware he had just walked into his own trap. The judge believed the break would cool the fire. Instead, it would give Bondi enough oxygen to burn the courthouse legends to ash. The hallway outside courtroom 4B thrummed like a backstage corridor minutes before a rock show. Reporters huddled in clusters, phones pressed to ears, barking updates. Bondi stonewalls, Chen mocks. "This is déjà vu." Cameramen wheeled tripods toward the elevators for noon live hits. In the eye of that storm, Pam Bondi stood alone before a vending machine, studying candy bars as if their labels held secret codes. Her phone buzzed. John Wakefield's voice flowed through, warm as morning coffee. "I saw the live feed. You all right?" "I'm better than all right," she answered softly. He took every bait. A pause. "Ready to finish it?" "Almost," she said, eyeing the DOJ seal on her folder. 15 minutes, and the roof caves in. She hung up, dropped 2 quarters, selected nothing, and walked back toward the courtroom. Inside, the clerks shuffled quietly. Ben Crawford returned, laughing with his junior, breath smelling of hallway coffee. "She's swinging damp noodles," he joked, not loudly enough for microphones, but loud enough for Bondi to hear. She took her seat, opened a new pad, and wrote one sentence. "Damp noodles at 12:55 p.m. Prosecution mockery." She underlined it once. The room refilled. Families of past defendants slipped in, curious about rumors swirling on radio talk shows. Near the back, a young woman clutched the hand of an older man. Bondi recognized the face from a case Chen had fast-tracked to sentencing 3 years earlier. Victims and skeptics mixing in the same pews. Another domino. At exactly 1:15, the doors thudded and Chen swept back, but the strut in his step looked rehearsed, almost brittle. He cleared his throat, sat, and said, "Miss Bondi, you may proceed." Briefly. She rose, voice steady, laying out a concise chain of authority for her motion. Second sentence in Chen cut her off. "Let us not waste time with generalized overviews." She thanked him and pivoted to Harrison versus Miller. "Irrelevant," he barked. "Actually, Your Honor," she replied, "it was reaffirmed last term." For the first time that day, Chen hesitated, flicking his eyes toward a law clerk who shrugged. She pressed on. "Before proceeding, I must address a matter critical to the integrity of these proceedings." The phrase drew every head. Chen stiffened. "Counsel, tread carefully." Bondi inhaled. Under Canon 2A, judicial impartiality is required to maintain public confidence. Today, repeated interruptions, selective overrulings, and tone demonstrate a pattern that threatens that confidence. Crawford leapt up. "Objection! Grandstanding!" Chen raised a palm, but instead of silencing her, he found himself silenced by her calm stare. Murmurs swelled like surf. Bondi continued, "To ensure a fair record, I am filing a proffer of new evidence regarding ex parte communications that may directly implicate this court's neutrality." She lifted the DOJ-sealed folder. The gallery's collective breath snagged. Chen scoffed. "Speculative." Bondi did not answer him. She addressed the bailiff. "Please deliver this to Special Agent Rivera, FBI Public Corruption Unit, present in court." The gray-suited woman, Vasquez, stood and gestured. A man in a dark jacket approached. Badge flashed. Chen blanched, the color drained from Crawford's cheeks. Rivera broke the seal, extracted a micro SD card, and placed it into a courtroom audio doc. "Your Honor, federal authorization attached," he said, handing Chen a warrant copy. Cameras focused, even stenographer hands paused. Chen scanned the paper, jaw flexing. "Proceed," he muttered. A hiss of static, then Chen's own voice boomed from speakers. "What I need is to be sure she loses, clean, quiet, final." Another male voice asked, "How do we make sure she loses?" Chen's recorded answer echoed, "Exactly." "How?" Gasps rolled through. Somebody whispered, "Oh my God!" Crawford's pen slipped from his hand, clattering like a gunshot. Bondi let the silence linger 5 beats. Then she placed 3 glossy printouts on the evidence screen. Cayman Island wire transfers, each within 48 hours of Chen rulings favoring Gulfstream Industries. She spoke softly. "The recipient company is a front for Kestrel Holdings, controlled by Judge Chen's former law partner." Chen reached for words, but only exhaled. She wasn't finished. "Your Honor, I move for immediate suspension of these proceedings, sequestration of all evidence, and referral to the 11th Circuit for emergency judicial review." Chen slammed the gavel half-heartedly. "Recess!" His voice cracked. He rose but stumbled. The robe suddenly looked too heavy. 2 plainclothes agents materialized near the exit. Chen vanished through the door like a man fleeing his own shadow. Reporters exploded into shouts. Emily Harper live-streamed to thousands. Federal judge caught on tape plotting verdict. Miami courthouse in uproar. But amid the chaos, Bondi remained seated, eyes closed for a single, slow breath. She had spent months gathering threads. Now the net tightened on its own. 10 minutes passed. 20. Doors to Chen's chambers stayed shut. Finally, Karen Mitchell emerged, face chalk white, holding a sealed envelope addressed to DOJ. "He left through the east stairwell," she whispered to Rivera. The agent radioed backup. Lauren Vasquez stepped forward, voice carrying over the din. "Judge Edward Chen is hereby under federal investigation and subject to sealed indictment. All his active dockets are frozen, effective immediately." Families in the gallery gasped. The older man squeezed his daughter's hand. Crawford sank into his chair, colorless. Bondi noted details. Every reaction would matter later. Vasquez added, "Any past case showing irregular sentencing will be audited." A juror from a 2021 trial stood, tears brimming. "He gave my nephew 23 years for a first offense," she said. The room shifted from shock to sorrow to something like righteous anger. Bondi rose quietly, collecting her pads. When Chen returned, it would not be as judge, but as suspect. And if he never returned, the federal marshals would fetch him. Either way, the scales had finally begun to level. The gavel had fallen many times that morning, but the sound everyone would remember was the click of handcuffs none of them had seen. Yet, 37 minutes into the unscheduled recess, Courtroom 4B no longer looked like a legal battleground. It felt like a submarine itching for the pressure hull to fail. Conversations were hushed, frenetic. Reporters filed dispatches about unprecedented collapse of judicial authority. Prosecutor Ben Crawford stared at his own reflection in an unplugged laptop screen, seeing not confidence, but complicity. Whenever he replayed Chen's recorded words in his mind, his stomach twisted. Bondi stood near the clerk's desk, calmly arranging exhibits into a lockbox stamped FEDERALPROPERTY. She asked Karen Mitchell, "Chain of custody logs ready?" The clerk nodded, hands shaking. Bondi's poise steadied the woman more than any pep talk could. Across the aisle, families whispered new hope. A mother fingered a dog-eared photo of her son, sentenced by Chen last year. At 2:08 p.m., the rear doors opened, and 2 U.S. Marshals guided Judge Chen inside, uncuffed for the moment, but flanked closely. His robe was gone, replaced by a crumpled gray suit. He looked shrunken, as if gravity had increased just for him. The room inhaled. Cameras clicked like rattlesnakes. Chen's eyes darted from bench to bar, perhaps hunting for even one friendly face. He found none. Deputy Director Vasquez addressed him. "Judge Chen, federal authorities have questions concerning wire transfers, altered case files, and recorded ex parte communications." His reply was a whisper. "This is a political hit job." But the conviction had drained away. Rivera held up a binder 5 inches thick. "Evidence, Judge. Politics don't move money offshore." Bondi requested the record reflect Chen's silence on the substance of the allegations. The stenographer, fingers trembling, obliged. Then Bondi spoke directly to Chen for the first time. "You once told me justice was a privilege granted by the bench. You were wrong. Justice is a right owned by the people, and today they're collecting." A pin might have made a cannon boom in that stillness. Crawford stood, surprising himself with the impulse. "Your Honor," he began, then corrected. "Mr. Chen, if any of my prosecutions were tainted by your misconduct, I will cooperate fully with review." Gasps again. A prosecutor's public mea culpa was almost as rare as a judge in Marshall's custody. Chen's shoulders sagged another inch. Vasquez motioned, and one Marshal produced cuffs. Metal closed around Chen's wrists with a clean snick. Flashbulbs flared. Emily Harper whispered into her mic. Historic moment. Sitting federal judge placed under arrest inside his own courtroom. Bondi didn't smile. Her victory was never about spectacle, only correction. They led Chen out the main doors this time, forcing him past rows of onlookers whose lives he had once controlled with a pen stroke. Some stared, stone-faced. Others turned away, grief mixing with relief. In their wake, Bondi gathered her files into a battered briefcase. When she clicked the lock, it sounded like an ending. But endings breed beginnings. Vasquez turned to the remaining crowd. "We will audit every conviction Judge Chen touched. A hotline will open tonight." A grandmother lifted a faded docket sheet. "My grandson, armed robbery, 5 years over guidelines," she said. Vasquez took the paper from her gently. The system, so cold for so long, felt a pulse of humanity return. Crawford approached Bondi. "Pam, He searched for words. She spared him embarrassment. "Save it. Help fix what broke. That'll be apology enough." He nodded, eyes wet. Outside, thunderheads muscled across the afternoon sky, but it wasn't rain Miami feared. It was the gathering storm of public scrutiny. Satellite trucks idled, anchors rehearsing phrases like judicial earthquake. And deep in DOJ headquarters, auditors uncovered another name threaded through Chen's email chains. Ethan Shaw, senior counsel with the state attorney, recipient of late-night strategy memos. A subpoena request hit Vasquez's phone. The aftershocks had begun. Back in 4B, Karen Mitchell closed the evidence cabinet, sealing crime scene tape across its doors. She caught Bondi before she left. "Thank you," she whispered, voice cracking. Bondi squeezed her hand. "Keep the record honest, Karen. People are watching now." She stepped into the hallway where the air smelled of adrenaline and burnt camera batteries. Reporters shouted, but she walked on, briefcase swinging like a clock pendulum, marking the end of an era. Chen was gone, but the files he signed still whispered from every shelf. Files about to roar loud enough to shake courtrooms across the country. Before dawn the next morning, a fluorescent buzz filled a secure DOJ conference room where 25 analysts faced a mountain of Chen-era dockets. A projector mapped sentencing graphs, red bars spiking far beyond federal averages. One cluster glowed crimson, cases tied to Ethan Shaw. Deputy Director Vasquez stabbed a finger at the screen. "That's our fuse. Pull it." By 7 a.m., agents knocked on Shaw's condo door. By 7:10, he was in an interview suite signing away password access. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi sat in a borrowed cubicle 2 floors up, sleeves rolled, coffee cooling untouched. She scanned digital transcripts, highlighting every time Chen silenced defense counsel mid-objection. Yellow stripes littered the pages like caution tape around a collapsed building. At 9 a.m., her phone chimed with a text from Emily Harper. "Victim families holding vigil on courthouse steps. Want your comment?" Bondi typed back, "Work first, talk later." At 10:30, she joined a DOJ press briefing, not at the podium but off camera, listening while Vasquez announced a special task force to review 1,142 Chen rulings. Reporters fired questions. Will verdicts be vacated? How long will audits take? Vasquez held the line. Evidence first, headlines second. Bondi respected that. Too often, media fireworks burned up the oxygen reform needed. Noon brought a twist. An analyst rushed in, waving printouts. A decade-old Morales case quietly sealed under Chen had links to Covington Strategy Group, a shell company Bondi exposed yesterday. The defendant, Miguel Morales, had served 8 years on tampered evidence. Demographics showed he lived 20 miles away, now out on parole. Bondi clicked open a new memo. Priority review. Possible immediate exoneration. Her pulse quickened. This was why she dragged herself through those humiliations a year ago. Crawford walked in, eyes rimmed red. "I've started internal memos for every file I prosecuted before Chen," he said. "It's a lot." Bondi regarded him. "Regret's useful only if it fuels repair." He nodded. Understood. They worked shoulder to shoulder, strange alliance forged in the furnace of public scandal. Mid-afternoon storm clouds broke. Rain hammered Miami, but courthouse steps remained crowded. Families held photos under umbrellas, chanting names of loved ones. A live stream captured it. Hashtag reopen the files trending worldwide. Bondi saw the feed on a wall monitor. The chants were messy, off-key, but they made her throat tighten. At 4 p.m., federal agents escorted Chen, now in orange jumpsuit, to a detention van bound for a secure facility. Bondi did not watch. She was in a teleconference with the 11th Circuit clerk pushing emergency motions. "We'll need temporary release hearings," she insisted. "We can't leave possibly innocent people locked up while paperwork crawls." The clerk hesitated but promised to relay the request to the chief judge, a jurist known for integrity. Evening settled. The task force room glowed with computer screens, clicking keyboards a metronome of determination. Bondi finally stepped outside for air. Rain had stopped. The sky blushed peach and lavender. A young mother approached holding a damp newspaper photo of her teenage son. "He got 10 years for resisting arrest," she said. "Chen said he needed a lesson." Her voice quivered. Bondi placed a hand over the mother's. "We're reopening everything," she promised. The words weren't comfort. They were a contract. Back inside, she drafted outreach letters to law schools, inviting volunteers to sift transcripts under DOJ supervision. By midnight, responses poured in. students hungry to help clean the house they hoped to inherit. Bondi smiled for the first time in 2 days. One corrupt judge had fallen, but the true verdict on the system would be written by hundreds of unseen hands, racing daylight to free forgotten lives. 2 weeks later, the Chen task force occupied 3 floors of a downtown office tower, whiteboards crammed with case numbers, arrows, and sticky note flags. A software dashboard tracked review status: green for clear, yellow for questionable, red for corrupt. The red column bled downward like paint on wet canvas. Miguel Morales' file turned red, then purple. Priority. Evidence had been photoshopped, timestamps scrubbed. A DOJ lawyer drafted dismissal papers. Bondi prepared to call Morales' sister with the news. Media frenzy cooled into determined coverage. Documentaries pitched, podcasts plotted multi-part arcs, but Bondi fed them only facts. Her mantra repeated on every channel: transparency, not theater. Still, the story spawned viral memes. Chen's gavel morphing into handcuffs. Bondi's stoic profile overlaid with the caption, "Silence is a weapon." Inside the task force war room, a new discovery landed like a grenade. Analyst Priya Patel found encrypted emails between Ethan Shaw and 2 judges in neighboring districts. Money trails suggested Chen was just one vertex in a triangle of corruption. Vasquez ordered immediate quiet subpoenas. Leaks could spook targets. Bondi's heart thudded. This could topple half the circuit. That night, she and Crawford sat over Chinese takeout boxes, reviewing victim statements. He sighed. Funny, the public thinks prosecutors love convictions. We're supposed to love justice. Somewhere along the way, I confused the two. Bondi ate a wonton, considered. Justice is a direction, not a destination. The minute you stop checking your compass, you're lost. Crawford nodded, wiping soy sauce from a tie he had chosen deliberately plain. Across town, TV pundits debated mandatory bench rotation rules, AI-assisted bias checks, live-streamed federal trials. Conservative hosts blamed one bad apple. Progressives demanded sweeping reform. Bondi muted the broadcast. Real progress brewed in affidavits, not arguments. Friday dawned with sirens. Shaw attempted suicide in holding, survived, now willing to cooperate. He named corporate lobbyists, offshore facilitators, and yes, other judges. Bondi's stomach knotted. Each revelation meant more wrongfully sentenced, more families betrayed. She channeled the nausea into speed, drafting master spreadsheets for cross-district audits. Press asked for Bondi's comment on Shaw. She issued a 2-line statement. Corruption is contagious. We're deploying antidote at scale. Social feeds erupted. The antidote trended. She ignored the buzz and returned to files. By dusk, Morales walked free. Cameras captured him hugging his mother, tears mixing with rain. Bondi watched from a distance. The moment belonged to them. Later, she wrote 2 sentences in her journal. Justice delayed is salvageable. Justice denied, never. Every acquittal lit a candle, but the widening darkness revealed just how many more flames were needed. Month 3. Congressional hearings opened with gavel cracks far less arrogant than Chen's ever were. Bondi sat at the witness table, sworn in, delivering calm testimony about data patterns, whistleblower protections, and why fear keeps good people silent. Senators across party lines nodded. Scandal ignores ideology. The nation watched her, not as a media hero, but as an architect of next steps. Outside Washington, the task force dashboard showed 219 convictions vacated, 74 pending resentencing, 11 wrongful death suits prepared. Families once invisible now queued for restitution hearings. Some days Bondi felt crushed by stories. Vets jailed for protest. Teens railroaded on false witness. She learned to pause, breathe, and remember each freed person was proof the grind mattered. Ethics committees rolled out new random assignment software. Courtroom video archives went online. Clerks received whistleblower hotlines. Change came slow, but it came. Bondi declined a morning show profile, instead lecturing at law schools. Question power, even when it smiles at you. Attendance overflowed auditoriums. One humid August afternoon, she visited courtroom 4B, now empty, bench draped in plastic during renovation. Echoes of cameras, laughter, Chen's insults lingered like ghosts. She sat in the back row, alone, listening to silence that once felt oppressive now sound like possibility. She imagined future attorneys here, arguing before a judge who feared being next on a task force screen. That fear, properly harnessed, could be justice's ally. Her phone buzzed. Unknown caller. She answered. A man's voice cracked. "Ms. Bondi, this is Sam Keene, Isaiah Keene's father. I just wanted to tell you my boy's coming home next week. 7 years we thought nobody cared." Tears flooded her eyes. "Welcome home doesn't begin to cover it," she whispered. After the call, she allowed herself 5 minutes to cry, alone in the place where tears had once meant weakness. That evening she met John for dinner at a modest Cuban cafe. No cameras. He toasted with iced tea. "To the quiet kind of heroism," he said. She shook her head. "To the noisy kind," she corrected. "The families who refuse to let bad verdicts stay buried." On her walk back to the hotel, she passed a newsstand. A magazine cover showed her silhouette against courthouse columns. The woman who stood still. She almost laughed. Movement defined her life, but stillness won the war. Before bed, she scrolled the dashboard, red column shrinking, green spreading. She marked tomorrow's agenda: interview new interns, draft oversight grant, Zoom with Morales family. She closed the laptop, whispered a prayer for strength, and slept dreamlessly. In that quiet, she believed, for the first time since stepping from the SUV months ago, that the system could heal. Not perfectly, not quickly, but steadily, so long as enough people remembered that justice, like silence, gains its power when someone brave refuses to move. The task force would finish someday. Headlines would fade, but every courthouse would keep a faint echo of the day silence stood up and made the whole nation listen.